I didn't find anything except a bunch of paper. One, a newspaper with an article about the flag-waving incident. Two, another newspaper with an article ripped out. And three, something did seem to be missing from one of the walls. It might be the photograph of the flag-waving incident. Maybe Chan's neighbor was right. The facts, nothing but the facts. Looking back at all this, I don't think Chan is real. To myself, I mean, as a person, I don't think Chan is real. Chan was always this character that this person that isn't there.
Chan comes in there with that nice new silver minap, right?
Yeah.
So what you said something to him in Chinese about you really like that, right?
Yeah.
So right there, man, he takes the fucking jacket off, frankly, forces it on you, you know?
Rapport? You and I have a good rapport? Yeah, we had a good...
Wait, what? You're talking about theater, you're talking about report, right?
Rapport.
What is
I have no idea what you're talking about, right?
My ex-wife got nothing to do with it. Divorce is over, right?
I'm not talking about a divorce. I'm talking about how you used to feel about her, you know?
I
Being
feel-
FOB and everything.
I feel all right. I'm okay.
We had good rapport because we had been working with each other for a lot of years in theater together. So we had I guess we had it
Before, right? You were young.
Yeah, you were young too. I'm almost at the. You got to remember, I'm almost at the age now of when I met you.
That's what I mean. He reminds me of my old man that way, you know? Fucking embarrassing.
During the time that Chan is missing, I was involved with the Asian American Theater Group in San Francisco. And the group was formed because Frank Chin, who had written plays, wanted some actors to do some of his play, and he didn't have trained actors.
Initial group was such a wonderful mixture of probably clinically crazy and really unique individuals, like first-time individuals breaking away from their clans and their neighborhoods, and we were getting people from the East Coast, and it was this really interesting mixture.
I thought you said you weren't going to come.
Who invited you?
Huh? Who invited me?
I didn't invite you.
Chan is Missing couldn't have been made, you know, if there wasn't already an Asian American theater scene, you know, here in San Francisco. If there weren't these other cast and crew members, cinematographers and sound people who on their own had found work and had sort of gone to study film production at San Francisco State and the like. I mean, it came about not just from one person's vision, but as a collective.
I think a fair number of films were made collectively in the mid-'70s. We had, you know, just come off of the civil rights era and the anti-Vietnam War.
And I think the Asian American cultural and civil rights movement kind of came out off of waves that started back in the 50s in San Francisco with the Beats. You know, it was just a progression. We were always engaged as young artists in trying to change the cultural paradigms, change the stereotypes.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey,
what's happening with you, too?
Even know his name.
How are you today? All right. Yeah, that's Mr. That's Charlie Chan, and I'm his #1 son, The Fly.
Wayne had contacted me about making the film, and then he wanted somebody like the partner to the character of Joe, and so we got the whole theater, the Asian American theater, together, and we got on stage, and I interacted with all the guys and the people on the stage to see who would fit better to the character.
So when Wayne came in, I remember there was there was kind of intrigue, and also kind of some people were kind of territorial, like, who's this guy? What's he want out of us?
But I thought that with Wayne, this was a good opportunity to do a film based on Chinese characters.
And I think he, as someone that didn't grow up there, but yet was Chinese and was looking at it from maybe a perspective of an outsider as well as an insider, you know, he found fascination in it, the elements of it.
So he threw himself into work, and he found work working with several social service agencies in San Francisco Chinatown. And I think it was those direct experiences which really inform the serious, the real meaty part of Chan is Missing.
He was the right man at the right spot to see what was going on and to really integrate it into an artistic whole.
Yes, at the time I was working at the National Endowment for the Arts, and I came out to a film conference here in Berkeley. And I was introduced to this young filmmaker working on a film about Chinatown. And when we received the proposal, it was a very, very ambitious, very dense academic sort of proposal for an experimental film to be called Fire Over Water. And it didn't seem to bear much relation to what eventually turned up in the final film.
Wayne sort of consciously made the film to be an anti-film. He tried to take what we know as film conventions, and he tried to like invert them or turn them inside out.
Wayne, very much because of his own experiences in film school, he had some real aspirations where this would also be a very theoretical film that, you know, cineasts and cineasts alone would probably appreciate. And somewhere in the middle, but there was something about the film that intrigued the panel. It did receive a grant, $12,500, as I recall, which, with an earlier grant from the American Film Institute of $10,000, constituted the total amount of outside funds. Of course, many of the cast members and crew were donating their services, so to speak.
But, you know, we're amenable to that because we wanted to do this collaborative film in the community with our friends. Most of the characters that we photographed were people I already knew. So it was it was fun to be with them in a slightly different reality.
I mean, that's the interesting thing about the people that Wayne accumulated, like George Wu and Judy Nihei, Presco, Lorraine. I mean, we all knew each other going back years.
Presco was with the I Hotel. You know, he lived in that area, and he was an artist.
I mean, Presco is known for speaking in, what would you go, those idioms?
He told me the only person who can fix him is that person in the puddle.
Oh, wow.
So, make sense?
Sort of
if he looked himself, yeah. Makes sense?
And when we were shooting it, I was like, he liked my reaction. I was laughing, but I was laughing more as Mark kind of go, there goes Presco again. You know, like I have no idea what he's talking about.
Presco just thought of a puddle, and he used that. He just brought it out. I didn't know he was going to talk anything about a puddle.
That was the wonderful thing working with Wayne, is he was open to designing a film where really talented and opinionated talents on camera could riff off of his theme.
So when George started this apple pie business, I just went along with it.
George Wu was the spokesperson for the Waching, which was a gang group. And then later on, he was a lecturer at State, and then later on he was a professor at San Francisco State in Asian American Studies.
You're a foreigner.
Peter was very good. Peter was one of those guys who can improvise. He did.
He was an actor and a theatrical director at the time. And then he went on to make a couple of feature films.
我跟你讲，下次老美要来吃这个，你就跟他说 ，We don't have wonton soup, we have wonton spelled backwards. Not now.
The timing was right for something like that. I mean, the people that Wayne put in the film, we were percolating this kind of cultural mix for a number of years. He kind of just came along and had the talent to see something that was happening and capture it in a really unique and very kind of artful way.
With Wayne, he told us what he wanted, and he had his script for himself. But for the actors, it's just a few words and a few lines that he tried to explain.
It would be, you know, I'd get a call, we're going to go to this rec center, and like, what are we doing? And, well, you're looking for Chan, and he would give us a specific story points right there before we shot. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And we'd let it fly.
And most of the people that he filmed were not actors. He got them involved and told them to just do what they wanted to do. And then it was up to the actors to fit into to the thing.
And everybody was live. Everybody was using their intuition to interact. Very different quality from having, 5 ADs yelling at different background layers, cueing them when to walk. I mean, what you got was because of your instinct.
Oh, flags! Talk about flags. Guess what happened?
You went to Flag Brothers.
No.
Yeah, a lot of improvisation, and I wasn't as good at it as some of the other actors. Like Mark was very good at improvisation.
Hey, what kind of Chinese are you, huh? PRC? Huh? Taiwan? Pro-Taiwan?
So usually when he started improvising, then I can fit myself into it. And so that's what happened with some of the scenes.
Do something that they should follow up on the leads. They're good at that kind of stuff. They should do it for us. We shouldn't have to worry about it.
Two-faced schizophrenic Chinaman, huh? Eh?
No,
Contradictions by culture.
No, I'm not two-faced, no.
No.
Hey, 2 of my ex-partners I used to run with in high school were tight. Hey, they're cops now.
Yeah.
No, it's a fine line between a criminal and a cop. Hey, forget you, man.
The whole film didn't take a whole lot of time to shoot. It was shot in, well, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe.
Most of the crew members had day jobs in other productions, so they were only free on weekends.
I had a theater schedule and other people's, he worked around other people's work schedules.
It's this great combination of how he made creative use of his limitations. I think the budget constraints sort of said, okay, we're going to shoot at 16 millimeter black and white. And they knew, he and the cinematographer, Michael Chin, knew that meant it would have a certain kind of look that, at some points suggests documentary very much. But at other points, even because, again, of his art school or photographic background, he was thinking of negative and positive space. And you see that also in particular, there's that one great shot of very beginning of the film. You see the shadows play across the windshield of the cab. And there's a point at which there's a black and white portion of that reflection, and it looks like it's a yin and yang symbol.
And Michael and I shot it as a lot of traditional documentaries were done at the time. 1 cameraman, 1 sound man. We didn't even have a camera assistant. It was basically me and Michael, and we both lit stuff.
I know that Wayne had to huddle with both Michael Chin, the cinematographer, and his screenwriting partners, Terrell Seltzer and Isaac Cronin, and they planned for a final screenplay, as it were, that could make use of a lot of reaction shots, of 1 and 2, one piece, of not relying on long sequences of dialogue. So after the social worker gives her spiel, you have these great deadpan shots of Wood Moy and Mark Hayashi completely bewildered by what she's said.
And Mr. Chan's case is a perfect example of what I'm trying to expose here. You see, the policeman and Mr. Chan had completely different, culturally related assumptions about what kind of communication each one was using.
Other scenes where we shot in Chinatown was interesting because it involved some of the people on the street who didn't know we were shooting anything. There was that one scene where I was walking down the street and I was being paranoid on Grand Avenue, and I walked around the corner there. I turned my head and looked the other way to see maybe who was following me and all that. And this guy who was a newspaper vendor on the corner looked at me and followed my eyes, and he followed my look. So that gave it a natural sort of a shot, and when Michael saw that, he shot the whole thing there. He thought that was the greatest thing because we got involved with a person who didn't know what was happening, yet he was acting exactly the way somebody else should have been acting. So
a lot of chance went into the making of Chan is Missing, because it was loosely structured, and because we were using real people who were not actors. You let them speak the way they speak. You know, give them lines of dialogue to memorize or anything. They speak from the heart.
姨妈离了，西凉街，北國嘅情調。
It was sort of a semi-fictional story with a very loose thread, but we were descending into real situations in Chinatown.
Now, to the insiders know that the I-Hotel and that portion of the bachelor Filipino community had been located in or adjacent to San Francisco Chinatown for several generations and was on its last stages there, and he gives it to us lovingly. I mean, that's a true kind of commitment to showing Chinatown and China's Missing that takes you quite far from, you know, the needs of the storyline.
Do you remember any of this?
Sure, I remember this. You remember when we walked the, look, we came around that way.
That I
right?
remember.
And then we started to go up here.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And you were talking. The Joe character and the Steve character were just to create this atmosphere. And so they went around looking and showing people what other people were doing, not themselves, because the film was to present this idea of the diversity of the Chinese community. And it really is a film about the community rather than about any one person.
Joe? Yeah. I'm glad to you. Come on in.
Thank you.
China's Missing is truly this look at who are Chinese Americans and what is the Chinese American experience.
Yeah. Don't listen to the wife neither, will you? The wife's gonna give it to you. Okay. Now you know what to do now, huh? Okay. All right. I'll see you then. Bye.
Well, my understanding is that after the cast and crew saw a film at one of its, you know, near to last screenings, but where it was still in a highly experimental form.
There was some shouting going on. I don't remember the details of it, but some people were like upset by it, and they thought the community wasn't being represented well. Maybe because they just didn't understand what they were seeing.
I think Wayne decided after he did shown it around that the film needed more than what it is. So
he and Terrell, the screenwriter, after the rough cut, they really massaged a lot of the stuff in post and refined the story in post.
But in the beginning, there was none of that continuous voiceover that I did.
I tried to contact the old man again. He still refuses to see me. But he told me that Chun Hung had nothing to do with the murder or the flag-waving incident. He said that Chun Hung just got paranoid and made everything up in his own mind.
The flag-waving incident was a real event. Wayne took it as a plot element. I mean, you know, he snatched something out of reality and pushed it into his film.
One must recall that at the time there was a very profound split in the Chinatown community between the older generations, let's say, who were very anti-communist, and understandably so, because many of them had fled the Civil War in China, the revolution that had brought the communists to power in the People's Republic of China. So there's a lot of references to PRC Chinese and Taiwan Chinese.
The FOBs fresh off the boat, as Steve called them, didn't come off of boats. They came off of jumbo jets. Steve doesn't realize that the joke about the pants is really on him. Chun Hung told me he sometimes play up being an FOB just to make Steve mad. Chun Hung does have a sense of humor that does not translate into English, like Don Rickles in Chinese.
I mean, you see also in the film a reference to FOBs and ABCs, FOB being fresh off the boat, ABC being American-born Chinese. And then again, I think what that shows is this split in Chinatown society itself, the emergence of now of a new generation that is the result of its own kind of cultural collision and is aware of these distinctions and sort of giving new names to this experience. And Wayne's sharing all of that laying all of that insider's story out on us.
My John kids, man, tell the truth. You got to tell the truth. Got to get them people's money, you know. Got to get them old ladies' money. Come down there, get that money. Got to tell the truth. You know what I mean?
Hey, who
you guys
do
don't know
think
what's
you are
happening.
anyway?
You don't know what's happening.
You think you're Richard Pryor or something like that?
Hey, no, I ain't Richard Pryor, man. You know, Richard Pryor. Oh, no, but you know.
To be honest with you, at that age, a lot of it just kind of went into my psyche through osmosis. It wasn't something that I could consciously articulate. I understood what Wayne wanted, and I guess as long as I was inhabiting what he wanted, then I knew I was on the right track. And, you know, that's all an actor really is responsible for.
There's a climactic or a very important scene where Wood Moy and Mark Hayashi sort of finally blows up, one being a first-generation Chinese American and the other being a second generation.
That scene is probably my proudest moment as an actor, because it was like I had dreamt of something like that.
He didn't want to talk to me, man. He knew who I was. He didn't want to talk to me. That's because he's playing the game, man. Fuck the identity shit. He knew what he was doing. I knew what I was doing. I could have kicked his fucking ass, but hey, ain't nothing to it anymore.
We talked through, and I don't know if we actually rehearsed, but I think we did rehearse a bit. We talked through and rehearsed the scene quite a bit prior to the shooting of it. So by that time we started to shoot it, at least I felt I was really in character, and I really, you know, knew my world and my specific task in that film.
That one was very interesting because Wayne told us that what he wanted us to do was to talk about these things and to get involved in it. And he didn't realize what Mark and I were doing. He didn't really realize what Mark and I were doing, and neither did Michael. Michael had the camera, and he was focused. It was focused on us. And Mark started to move, and I started to move. So we were sort of dancing around that pier.
And I was getting shot at by my own people. Hey, the Chinese are all over the city. What are you tripping so heavy on this one dude for, man?
Because he's a friend.
And then when Mark started to rant about this business of losing the money and that I was causing the whole thing, and then I got mad because he got mad.
It's just a fucking accident, man. It's just a fucking car accident.
And so we just moved up and down the pier, and there was only one shot we did. We only did one. There were no repeats. There were no instruction from Wayne. He was following us in back, and Michael was right in front of it. And we moved along that pier. And when we finished, Wayne said, "That's it. We didn't have to do it anymore."
Well, the first time I saw the complete film, of course, was at the 1982 Asian American Film Festival in New York. And you had this auditorium packed. And people were incredibly engaged. Not just people in the Chinatown community of New York, but again, it was partially because of the time. It was the whole kind of independent film media community was there also. There were a lot of sort of old-timers too that was sort of were curious about, you know, Chinese films and Chinese American films. So it was a perfect audience. You know, I think the first hint was when they're in that kitchen scene and they play the St. Mary's March on that little toy piano. I mean, people just erupted in laughter. And then, of course, when the social worker scene came on, I mean, just on and on. It was one of those experiences where you felt like, gee, finally someone understands me, someone's made a film about something I'm really interested in, and it was just a total buzz. It was a great moment.
If the vibe is good on the set, it doesn't always mean that the film will be good, but this was one of those things where whatever power and magic the film had when it opened, you could feel that feeling on the set. You know, we didn't know at that time that it was going to blow up as big as it was, but there was a feeling that we were capturing lightning in the bottle at all times.
I don't think any of us realized that it would be so, it gotten such good reviews.
Vincent Canby at the New York Times reviewed Chan is Missing and said the film was a matchless delight, and here we were in the presence of a fresh new voice in filmmaking. As a result, it was released theatrically, albeit in a limited run, and I believe it grossed a couple of million. Now, for a film that cost $20,000 to make, that's a very healthy return.
I think Chan's success is from being unique and showing up at a time when people were open to seeing something like it.
Chan is Missing was released in 1982, and at the time it caught critics completely off guard. It was so fresh and so original, and yet in some ways it was inevitable. It came about at an intersection, a time in independent filmmaking and in the social development of marginalized communities wanting to express something true about their identities. It came about because film festivals were important, and suddenly critics were looking for fresh new talent who were making films in exciting new ways.
It proved that an all Asian cast, all Asian produced film could make it in the marketplace. It did prove that.
It's a film that's respected by a lot of people because I think that because of the energy that it has and because of what Wayne did capture, as raw as it looks in hindsight now. As a piece of American art, I think it's the energy and the spirit that he captured. That will be its signature forever.
This mystery is appropriately Chinese. What's not there seems to have just as much meaning as what is there.
And I don't think, in a sense, Chan will ever be discovered because, again, Chan is this ephemeral character, in a sense, that represented a lot of people in the Chinese community. All these characters that showed up in the film are a real character, and yet when people go into Chinatown, for instance, they're not going to find all these people because are they real or are they not real? But even then, that was 30 years ago. Now it's even a lot more diverse. And the Asians are not one group. I mean, right now, there's so many different types of Asians or Asian Americans. It's, again, this mysterious East, in a sense. That's why Chan will never be found. Chan will never be found. I don't know whether Wayne has any idea of Chan being found or not, but I don't think he'll ever be found.